मेरा नाम अनुज है और मैं पब्लिक हेल्थ विषय में पीएचडी कर रहा हूँ और बाय प्रोफेशन में सोशल एंथ्रोपोलॉजिस्ट मतलब मानव शास्त्रज्ञ हूँ और समुपदेशन का भी मेरा अनुभव रहा है जो मनोवैज्ञानिक समुपदेशन का फील्ड है। फ़िलहाल मैं फ्रीलांसिंग कर रहा हूँ।
कुछ कैसी रही है आपकी जर्नी एज अ क्वेयर इंडिविजुअल भारत में, थोड़ा इसके बारे में बताइए।
तो मैं अपने आप को एक समलैंगिक पुरुष गे मैन करके आइडेंटिफाई करता हूँ और जर्नी भारत में देखी जाए तो काफ़ी इंटरेस्टिंग रही है क्योंकि मैं 89 बॉर्न हूँ और आज मैं 33 ईयर्स ओल्ड हूँ। तो मैंने जब मैं बचपन से बड़ा हुआ हूँ तो एक प्री इंटरनेट एरा में बड़ा हुआ हूँ। तो मुझे ऐसे लगता है कि काफ़ी स्ट्रगल था। इतना ज़्यादा अवेयरनेस नहीं था, इतना ज़्यादा प्राइड मंथ, प्राइड इवेंट, ये सारे शब्द नहीं थे। अपने लैंगिकता को पहचानने के लिए भी शब्द नहीं थे, तो रिसोर्सेस नहीं थे। तो मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि मैं जब अपने खुद के जर्नी के बारे में देखता हूँ रेट्रोस्पेक्ट करके तो वो बहुत रोचक रही है क्योंकि मैं एक प्री इंटरनेट एरा में ग्रो अप हुआ हूँ, 90s में ग्रो अप हुआ हूँ और आज जब 2018 के बाद जब सेक्शन 377 अबेंडन हुआ है या फिर OTT प्लेटफॉर्म्स बढ़ गए हैं, इतना ज़्यादा कंटेंट अवेलेबल हो गया है, तो वो एरा को मैं एक अलग देखता हूँ। आज मेरा बॉयफ्रेंड है, 2 साल से हम रिलेशनशिप है जो पोस्ट इंटरनेट एरा का प्रोडक्ट है आई वुड से। तो ये मेरा अनुभव मुझे काफ़ी समृद्ध करता है एज अ गे मैन इन इंडिया, ऐसा मुझे लगता है।
प्राइड मंथ है और काफ़ी इनिशिएटिव्स होते हैं, प्राइड मार्च होता है, तो क्या हैव दे प्लेड अ रोल इन योर लाइफ?
Yes. So I think very significant role Pride marches have played in my life. मुझे याद है कि जब मैं बिल्कुल ही क्लोजेट में था, जब मैं अपने जैसे घर वालों के सामने भी आउट नहीं था, बहुत लिमिटेड फ्रेंड्स के सामने आउट था, तो मैंने मुंबई में अपना पहला प्राइड मार्च अटेंड किया था अपने एक स्ट्रेट अलाय और उसकी वाइफ के साथ। और पुणे में मैं नहीं कर पाया था क्योंकि मैं डर रहा था और मुझे मास्क पहन के प्राइड अटेंड करने में कोई दिलचस्पी नहीं थी। तो इसलिए मैंने अपना पहला प्राइड मार्च मुंबई में अटेंड किया था जहाँ पे मुझे कोई पहचानता नहीं था। तो एक तरह का लिबरेशन का फीलिंग था जो आप महसूस करते हैं। कई सारी मोमेंट्स उस प्राइड मार्च में ऐसी थी कि जहाँ पे लोग आजू बाजू के देख रहे थे, लोग सपोर्ट कर रहे थे, कुछ लोग ताजुब कर रहे थे। तो वो जो सारा फीलिंग आप गैदर करते हो वो एक तरह का स्ट्रेंथ देता है। उसके बाद मैंने लगभग 3 प्राइड मार्चेस पुणे में भी अटेंड किए जो कि अपने आप में एक अलग मेरे ज़िंदगी के हिसाब से पड़ाव था कि मैं अपने शहर में जंगली महाराज रोड पे और फर्ग्यूसन रोड पे खुलेआम घूम रहा हूँ। और इस साल का जो प्राइड मार्च था उसमें तो मैंने खूब नारेबाजी भी की और तो वो एक और लेवल का खुलना था अपने आप के लिए। तो मैं ये ज़रूर सीमित नहीं मानता हूँ कि प्राइड मंथ और प्राइड इवेंट्स इज़ एवरीथिंग, लेकिन आई डेफिनेटली एंडोर्स कि प्राइड मंथ की और प्राइड मार्चेस की अपने आप में एक वैल्यू है क्योंकि एंथ्रोपोलॉजी विषय से मैं हूँ तो जिसमें सिंबॉलिज़्म पे काफ़ी बात की जाती है कि हर एक चीज़ का एक सिंबल होता है। जैसे दिवाली आप सेलिब्रेट करते हो, फेस्टिवल ऑफ लाइट्स, या फिर आप अभी श्रावण महीने में बहुत सारे फेस्टिवल्स महाराष्ट्र में सेलिब्रेट किए, इट इज़ लाइक सेलिब्रेशन ऑफ मॉनसून। या क्रिश्चियन लोग अपने तरीके से, ईसाई लोग अपने तरीके से, इस्लामी लोग अपने तरीके से। तो दिस सेलिब्रेशन कॉन्सेप्ट हैज़ इटसेल्फ वैल्यू और फॉर क्वियर पर्सन लाइक मी आई फाइंड प्राइड इवेंट्स एंड प्राइड मार्चेस गिव इनॉर्मस सिम्बॉलिक वैल्यू। जब मैं बाकी कंट्रीज़ के प्राइड मार्चेस देखता हूँ यूट्यूब पे वगैरह तो इट सेट्स लाइक अ होप फॉर मी और एस्पिरेशन फॉर मी कि जैसे टोरंटो जैसा शहर है जहाँ का प्राइड मार्च है, तो मुझे वो एक एस्पिरेशन सेट करता है कि यहाँ तो कोई स्ट्रगल्स ही नहीं है इस कंट्री में। या स्वीडन में भी जा चुका हूँ मैं, तो वहाँ का जो एटमॉस्फेयर था कि बिल्डिंग के बाहर रेनबो फ्लैग्स लहराए जाते हैं, तो these kind of symbolic things set aspiration for queer person like me who is living in India, which is to large extent not that much open up, और यहाँ पे बहुत सारा मनस्थिति में बदलाव होना अभी बाकी है आने वाले सालों में।
तो थोड़ा अनुज ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस के बारे में का क्या थॉट है, व्यूज है?
राइट सो देखा जाए तो आई कैन कैटेगराइज डिफरेंट क्वियर ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस। दे आर वर्किंग इन पुणे, इन मुंबई एंड इन सूरत एंड इन अदर सिटीज. So one type of organizations there which have very much target based approach, जो HIV के जो मूवमेंट पूरी हुई थी 90s के बाद उससे उभरे हुए हैं, क्योंकि HIV के लिए वन ऑफ द की पॉपुलेशन वाज MSM कम्युनिटी. तो ये जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन थे उनका जो फोकस रहता है दैट इज़ वेरी टारगेट बेस्ड, कि जहाँ पे आप MSM कम्युनिटी को एड्रेस करो, उनका स्क्रीनिंग करो, मेडिकल एंगल से उनका स्क्रीनिंग करो, कॉन्डोम डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन करो, काउंसलिंग करो, उनको रेफरल करो, सिविल हॉस्पिटल में मेडिकल हेल्प करवाओ. तो दीज आर one kind of organization which are working in stereotypical manner, target based approach. I don't see them evolving beyond their medical target interventions and this kind of. So these are one type of organization. Second type of organization I can see is of they more work for queer community as a from medical, social, cultural activism, all different angles. They are working on grassroots, like collaborating with different medical institutions so that there should not be any stigma if a gay person goes to hospital, or they are against the conversion therapy, or they are tying up with different law institutions, law colleges, sensitizing legal aids, and so these kind of organizations are there which are, I see, working very much on the right based approach and in a holistic manner. Then there are third kind of organizations which are more having celebration as a their mandate, or as a their one of the core mission or motive, where they arrange parties, they arrange the flash mobs, or they arrange the safe spaces where queer people can just have fun, have joy, and their scope is limited to these kind of activities. These are third kind of organization. Fourth kind of organizations which are not exclusively working on queerness as such, but they are working on gender and sexuality, and they are organizing different kind of trainings. It may be psychological trainings, or it may be writing or research based organization. They are also working on domestic violence and other things, but they very much consider the queer relationships and hold the queer narrative into all their organizational functioning. So these are fourth type of organizations. And so these organizations are also their functions overlapping. Like one organization working in this particular manner can extend and incorporate some other functions of some other organization. So that boundary, flexibility of boundaries is definitely there. And the last one I would like to say are more corporate NGOs, what we call corporate based organization. So they work on corporate social responsibility principles, where they have some dedicated budget from some funding agency and they want to spend it for welfare activities. So there is an organization which works on hepatitis B vaccination of queer individuals. So where they want to provide services, but they don't want to get involved in rights and fighting and other things, but it is more welfare approach. So these kind of organizations are there. Personally for me, I have been in contact with all these kind of organizations. I really don't completely criticize any kind of this organization, because they are happy with their own approach. and they accept, many of them accept that our scope is limited and this it is limited to this kind of function, and they are doing their work. And I think there is so much to do for queer culture and queer individuals in India, that everybody playing their own role ultimately adds up to the big picture and larger movement that is happening.
Anuj, can you share your thoughts on the role of intersectionality
Yes.
and plays in queer politics?
Right, right. So personally, I myself don't belong to any intersectionality, because I identify myself as a queer person, but I from other sections of our life, I come from very privileged background, where I come from middle economic class. I come from Hindu religion, which is majoritarian in our country as of now. Then I come from Brahmin caste, which is the dominant in the whole caste system and strata. Then I'm a man, so I also don't have experience of the struggles that women individuals go through. Then I feel there is a lot of intersectionality within LGBT, like the transgender people, the lesbian people, or the bisexual people don't have that much bandwidth to access the knowledge, skills, and attitude as compared to gay individuals. So I myself feel I come from a very privileged background. But yes, I have been in contact with some of the individuals who experience this intersectionality, and
Anuj, any experiences?
yes, yes. So it is extremely difficult for a person. See, there are different layers of oppression that a person is carrying. So one of the person in my contact, she is Dalit. She identify herself from the Dalit community and as a queer individual. So where the basic education in the family, or basic resources, maybe of social network, maybe of economic resources, maybe the opportunities in different sectors, academic institutions, that itself is a struggle. Then carrying the layer of queerness becomes the more stringent psyche, or more stringent experience for the person. Or when we see today that there is so much going on outside based on the religion part, when one particular religion is completely targeted with the hate speech, or the different media restrictions that are happening. So if I consider, if I myself belong to a Muslim community and I'm a queer individual, it's hell difficult for me to carry my queer identity, because in outside community, first fight I have to fight is for my religion identity, and then I will go to my queer identity. So it's like for me as a privileged person, if the journey is of 10 steps, then for the person who is experiencing different operations, the journey becomes of 50 steps or 100 steps, and that much support is required, which is not available, unfortunately. So yeah.
Anuj, how often do you participate in activities during Pride Month? And do you think the activities organized by the organizations are enough,
Yeah.
or anything needs to be done more?
Yeah. So see, for any social change, it may be in case of gender, it may be in case of health, it may be in case of climate resilience, it in case of young people, the activities happening around are never going to be enough. Yeah, they are always going to there is always going to be need to carry out the change and to sustain the change for longer period of life, because this is the fight that we are fighting for is at two levels. One level is the logistical or administrative, where the legal battles, or section 377, or marriage rights, or adoption rights, or so these are more legal and administrative battles, I would say. But the other level, which is deep down and rooted in our society, is the change in mindset. and this is ongoing journey, and it is going to be there for long term. So comparatively, if I have to categorize pre 2018 and post 2018, there is significant difference in the work that is happening outside, or the people doing this work. To give few examples, there had been course of integrating gender and sexuality in counseling, which I attended recently, so by one of the organization. Then there was a panel discussion organized in a medical college who had never attended any kind of LGBT activity for so many decades. Yeah, so on that light, its importance can be highlighted. Or there are film festivals, there are the literature festivals, there are the December month is especially dedicated for HIV and hepatitis testing and screening. And so I see there are multiple activities happening, multiple writing is happening, there are multiple art products are coming up. So if you compare before 2018 and today, the OTT platforms are rampant today. So many films, short films, or dramas, or songs, or music pieces are coming up, which are validating the queer life in general, or queer culture, to a couple of very important resources for me. One was Shuddha Desi Gay, that is a podcast that is happening on Spotify by Yogi and Kabir. So I personally find a lot of value of this podcast in my life to handle my own battles. So these kind of things were totally absent earlier. Or there is the film like Modern Love Mumbai is there, and the masses are watching it and discussing the topic around it. So I think not just organizations initiative, but the artists and filmmakers and different sections of society coming together and doing something for queer culture, I find it's very positive.
Have you joined any organization, and have you seen their work closely?
Yeah. So I have participated in many of the activities. For example, I have participated in the writing workshops. I have participated in these counseling related few activities which I mentioned. But I have not really joined any particular organization as such for longer period of time. The reason was not something because the organizations are bad and I don't want to go to that sphere, but I was working in many other social activities, and I just felt that my bandwidth is limited to do many activities. That's why I have not joined that.
What do you think? What obstacle does a queer individual face, in a day-to-day life?
Yes.
And what can organization do
Right.
to eradicate, names?
Right. So we talked about intersectionality. So I think the understanding of how psychological things happen for a queer individual, like what kind of beliefs I carry while being in India as a queer individual, or what kind of privileges I have when I don't experience the intersectionality, or how the operation affects me in my daily life. Like if I am working in a corporate and if I go to my office, and how in day-to-day life in little activities the operation influences or affects me in certain ways. So this kind of understanding needs to be developed. These kind of dialogues need to happen within a queer organization and between the queer organization, because everybody brings their own experience or share of experience. But generally, like any other organization, there is always a politics, there are always what we are doing is something best and what you are doing is not something. So this kind of mentality is not just limited to queer individuals or organizations, it is everywhere. So moving beyond it and not working in silos and having a dialogue between other organizations. So as I shared, there are different types of organization, and if they bring on the table their own understanding and create the platforms or create the art products or create the content which is digestible or which makes one person uh, feel enough supportive that a person can come out of closet and fight the battles in his or her own life. So that is something I would definitely suggest.
What's your opinion on queer people in corporate work area? Has there been improvement in the employment and also the expansion of services products for the community or the
Right, right. So, so there are two shades to it. Like for the corporate organizations or individuals, anything is can be used for capitalism. Yeah. So the gender can be used for capitalism, the body image can be used for capitalism. So for many corporate organizations, unfortunately, the sexuality and queer stuff and LGBT life, there is a kind of trend or there is kind of fashion to change the logo and make it rainbow flag and use the Pride Month for employee engagement activities. But rather than so there are very limited initiatives to allocate the separate budget for inclusivity or to allocate in your job profile or your JR sheet making this commitment for inclusive and individuals or gender neutral toilets, what they call in general. So these kind of practical things which needs to be done for making the day to day life of queer employee simpler so that the person can feel safer to come out or to be in his or her or their own persona. So these initiatives are limited, but I don't know specific examples, but I would suggest this beautiful book by Mr. Parmesh Sahani called Queeristan, which has been released recently and which talks about different examples, and then it need not be a big company like Amazon or something. They can be a smaller initiative, but they are taking their share of actions in their work life. So that is commendable. On other side, we can see the Amazon. There is a lot of critique happening on Amazon for boycotting some kinds of books and on the other side showcasing their rainbow flag. So this kind of hypocritic behavior should be stopped and there should be real support from the organization's point of view.
getting on to this support, what kind of legal protection do you think Indian state should provide to the poor community?
Right. So there are ongoing demands. The first demand, I think, the Section 3 removal of Section 377 had been a big battle. Like if I'm passing by this road and I'm roaming with my boyfriend, and if I hold his hand, and today, just with this thought that this law is not there, is very securing for me and very safe for both of us to just hold hand in public and just be there together. So I think it's a big battle, and we should acknowledge it first, and there should be mechanism to ensure its implementation. So there should be mechanism of police officers or sensitization of police officers or different officers or bureaucrats involved in implementation of these kind of acts. So before going to new legal battles, first I would suggest that there should be proper implementation, neutral and without any bias implementation of the existing acts and policies. Now, when I see my life, the marriage rights then property inheritance rights, then surrogacy or adoption, or raising a child if I decide to raise a child. So these kind of laws. Now, philosophically, if we speak, there is a different debate whether you should support a marriage as, ritual, or you should go against it. But if I see my lifetime, 50 years from now, if I see my lifetime, I would definitely want all those privileges which a straight person is having in his or her life, and I want to enjoy those. So maybe I have different opinion whether marriage should be there in society or not. But if marriage is going to be there, I want it right, because I want to marry with my partner. And today, if I am hospitalized, then I want my partner to sign some papers, and doctor should not tell him that your marriage is not legal. Call his mother or father. So I want these kind of privileges in my life. So the legal battles for all these laws should continue.
There has been a lot of debate on same-sex marriage and also marital laws.
Right.
And also there are a lot of challenges, and can you talk about those challenges, even if on a present day, if you want to marry them,
Right.
any examples can you just share?
Right. So, examples or the challenges we can categorize maybe at different levels. So, first is like the concept of marriage. There is one view that the concept of marriage itself is oppressive. Yeah, the rituals in marriage, or the gender oppression that is perpetuated through the ceremony of marriage, like changing the name of woman, or property rights, or woman leaving her house and coming to husband's house. So at one level, by and large, as a society, we need to evaluate our concept of marriage itself. The concept of marriage has very good points of celebration, or self-appreciation, or loving yourself. For example, recently there was a girl in Gujarat, she married to herself, So I think that was kind of self-celebration or self-love, act of self-love. So that kind of value marriage holds. But in long run, it is quite oppressive ceremony, or it is quite oppressive mechanism to perpetuate the adult oppression, or the men's oppression, or the women's oppression that is going on in the society. So at one level, we need to conceptualize what is good for our society. Can LGBT life and LGBT movement be an opportunity to demonstrate new kind of alliances, where the marriage is something not prominent, but people are living together, they are finding their own community, and they are living a good life, they are celebrating their life. So at conceptual level, that is a one struggle that is going on. Now at second level, of course there are petitions and there are legal battles that are going on in the court. I myself don't know any individual who is gay and who is married. So I can't really cite any particular example. But if I decide tomorrow to get married, so there is one argument whether society is ready to accept the gay marriage, but society is never going to be ready, for the changes to happen. Society will be ready once those kind of examples will be demonstrated, and those will start living in the society, and those mindset battles, or when my neighbors are poking into my life and they are saying that how two boys can stay in one house. So when I will write about it, I will assertively argue with them, I will convey them that this is okay and this is part of society. Then I think that change will happen, and any kind of social change will happen progressively only. So we cannot accept that let's make the society ready first and then let's have gay couple. It's not going to happen. The both things are going to go hand in hand. So let's see how it goes.
I mean, when it comes to you, your partner, I mean, are you that open, or like, how is it?
Yeah.
If I talk about you.
Yeah, so I am personally out to my parents, to my friends, but my partner is not yet out. He may or may not be out in future. So, yeah, so for us, when we think we really don't believe the religion aspect of marriage and oppressive thing that a marriage brings. But definitely, we want ceremony in our life. We want to receive good gifts, and we want to feed a good food to our people, and we want to have a good party. So that ceremonial aspects of marriage we imagine in our life, and we definitely hope that a small privilege we can have in our life.
Anuj, the visibility of commercial organization, basically rainbow themselves in the month,
Mhm.
in the Pride month,
Yes.
is it helpful to the whole community?
Right, right. So I think it is helpful. Honestly speaking, I have not given much thought for this question, but I think it is visible because for when um, when we were talking about intersectionality, 67% of India is residing in villages, in the rural area, and this is what all I shared my views and we are talking. It is very urban, it is very limited to one particular class, and this conversation is just limited to one section of the whole India. Yeah. So to reach, to widen its reach to villages, to other classes, to other castes, to other sections of society, these kind of events are important. Yeah. If someone is just dismissing or ridiculing its importance, I also consider that is also one kind of operation, that we don't want all this, all these ceremonies. And if you are gay, then sit at your home. Why you want to come on the road and make a pride march about it? So I think this is another way of perpetuating oppression by restricting all these things. If you want to restrict, then also restrict Raksha Bandhan. Why you want to tie the Rakhi to sister brother only on one day, or restrict the Valentine Day. Why there is love only for one day? So if we want to restrict, we have to restrict everything. But otherwise, I think Pride Month, Pride activities for 1 month give hope or boost to person like me. Oh, there is dialogue that is happening, there are events that are happening. Someone who is in closet gets some courage that there are 100 people there, and I can also open up to my parents. I have seen couple of cases in this month, Pride month only, where they actually opened up to their parents, and that dialogue started. So I really appreciate the intrinsic value of Pride Month and Pride activities. But if anyone is capitalizing on it, yeah, then as a society we also need to find the objectification and capitalization and making profits out of the Pride Month. So these kind of bad practices we should address, and we should not support them.
I mean, there are a lot of groups which are coming up. There are organizations and there are these small time groups, WhatsApp groups, there are
Yeah.
Facebook groups.
Yes.
They meet on weekends and all.
Right.
What do you think about them?
Right. So, all the spaces in our society are straight people's places. So, if I go to a random restaurant, I don't have to have exclusive straight people's table or straight people's meat, because all the meats in society are straight people's meat only. Any festival you take or any gathering, social gathering you take. So, for any kind of oppressed community, if they want to liberate themselves, these kind of spaces are extremely necessary. Just to cite other example, 200 years back in Maharashtra, there was the ceremony of Haldi Kunku. Where the women used to gather, and the women were in oppressed condition and they were not allowed to work outside. So the Haldi Kunku was the space where women used to come together, chit chat, and they used to have fun together. So I compare these kind of spaces, considering all the patriarchy and all the oppression involved into it, but I find these spaces analogous to the spaces what you are referring to, the Q meets or the WhatsApp groups or the Facebook groups, because um, I am not going to take extra effort to go there. But if there is something available, then it's invisible support for me. I can bank upon this group. Yes, I can join this group. So there are many initiatives that are happening today. I'm part of, like I have attended few events few times, and I find them, they are extremely helpful.
Anuj, your thoughts on crowdfunding campaigns within the Cure community?
Right, right. So I had not really been part of any crowdfunding campaign as such. So I will not be really able to specify any specific comment on it. But whenever there is money involved in any other organizations, if we see, whenever there is money involved, because we all human beings have so much our mental patterns associated with the greed and associated with the monopolies and associated with the divisions based on that. So I'm sure whenever there are crowdfunding campaigns in queer community, these patterns operate from us, because we are ultimately humans and we carry all those patterns. So these basic rules of transparency, these basic principles of equality and inclusion, those need to be kept in mind while planning and executing and utilizing on these campaigns. But I also find the need of, there was small initiative where a person was raising money from different people to support the individuals who are abandoned by their families. Like if they are not earning and if their family abandons them after coming out, so there will be some pooling of money which will help these individuals to sustain themselves. So there is definitely need for or even for a trans person to carry out the surgeries, and so there are economic battles, and the importance of crowdfunding campaign is definitely important, like highlighted.